The program Boss Talk, showing live on Satcom Channel 4. Boss Talk, this is your most informative and educative show that brings you face to face with the experts and national leaders to discuss trending national issues, be it politics, education, health, agriculture, human interest, and a lot more. Join your host, Julius Compton, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the program Boss Talk, showing live on Satcom Channel 4. Boss Talk, this is your most informative and educative show that brings you face to face with the experts and national leaders to discuss trending national issues, be it politics, education, health, agriculture, human interest, and a lot more. Join your host, Julius Compton, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the program Boss Talk, showing live on Satcom Channel 4. Pleasant good morning from our main studios here in Congotown. Welcome to the program Boss Talk on Boss Television. 2 days to Liberia's 176 independence celebrations. And today is July 24, 2023. And I'm Julius Compton presenting. And in today's edition, we have as our guest the Executive Director of ARET. ARET is the Institute of Research and Democratic Development, in person of Matthias Ine. He will be our guest. We'll be discussing issues relative to his institution and also the recently petitioned the National Legislature. We have to know more about that petition. We'll be talking to him about that, the significance, the background of the petition, and after the petition statement presented to the House of Representatives, what next? And we'll also be talking about Liberia at 176. What can members of the civil society point at in terms of their own involvement and contribution to the country? So welcome to this presentation. We're taking this break now. When we come back, we have our guests in studio and we begin our conversation. Boss Talk, this is your most informative and educative show that brings you face to face with the experts and national leaders to discuss trending national issues, be it politics, education, health, agriculture, human interest, and a lot more. Join your host, Julius Compton, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the program Boss Talk, showing live on Satcom Channel 4. Many thanks for rejoining us on the program Boss Talk on Boss Television. Ahead of the 176 Independence Day celebrations, there were a series of programs that were rolled out during the course of the week. On Friday, it was a prayer service, Thanksgiving, if you will, at the Black Jinan Mosques. And in the evening hours, the President, Chief Patron of Sports, dedicated the newly constructed Survival Park there in the Dole community area, bringing together residents and Liberians in general to set their eyes on what is now known as a modern facility, putting smiles on the faces of the locals in that part of the country. And on Saturday, it was an all sports affairs at the SKD. There were volleyball, basketball, kickball, and eventually football matches played between state-owned enterprises and that of members of the cabinet. And fortunately for members of the cabinet, they won the volleyball, the basketball, and the kickball. Unfortunately for them, they were defeated from the football version against state-owned enterprises. And finally, on yesterday, it was the Thanksgiving and intercessory prayer. We just tried to bring you up to speed with some of the activities ahead of the 26th celebrations. And yesterday at the Philadelphia church, it was the intercessory and prayer service for Liberia, for the people of this country, for national leaders, and also for the crucial general elections. One of the key things that the head of the Philadelphia church spoke about was peace. According to him, when this country has a lasting and maintained peace, the next thing that will follow will be joy, happiness, and development. And his statement was also re-echoed by the president of this country, President George Weah, who also called on Liberians to believe, promote peace, believe in peace, promote peace, and ensure that peace in this country is sustained. We just tried to bring you up to speed with some of the activities leading towards the 26th, and on Wednesday will be the main event, and we will bring you that as we go along our coverage on Boss Television. I'm privileged to have in studio now the executive director of ARED, the Institute for Research and Democratic Development. They've been in the country working from their sector to contribute to Liberia. Matthias Yine, welcome, sir, to the program. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Julius, and I'm happy to be here. And thank you for welcoming to your studio. I think it's a very good setup. I must appreciate the level of work you've done so far. I think this is another way of contributing to Liberians, especially the development that we envisage, and Liberia being, amongst the community of nations, looking at the technology space and how we take advantage of this. Of course, this is my first time being here, and I'm happy to be here.
It's good that you can be a part of the show, and we also appreciate you honoring our invitation. For the benefit of the public, just bring us up to speed about your institution. What is ARED?
Great. So ARED is the Institute for Research and Democratic Development. We are a research it's a think tank and non-for-profit organization. We work across various sectors, just a few. Budget transparency and accountability, which is fiscal transparency. We also look at advocacy, and evidence-based advocacy and research. We do a lot of work around gender, and women empowerment issues and elections. We are a member of the Elections Coordinating Committee, which is the largest, elections observation group in Liberia. We also do a lot of work around civic engagement. We are the ones who produce the legislative scorecard and monitor the legislature. So those are a series of things that we do, along the line: natural resource governance, economic, research, and also we do work around the decentralization.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were involved in the advocacy of the passage of the decentralization law, including the revenue sharing law that is currently being rolled out in the county, so the establishment of the county, the county councils. So those are things that ARED has been doing. ARED has been established for more than 18 years now, and we've been impacting several areas and sectors in Liberia.
That's great, huge one. We will break them down as we go along, but let's briefly wrap up on Liberia. Since 1847 now, on Wednesday, Liberia will turn 176. From your overall perspective about the civil society contribution in terms of all sectors to Liberia, how has it been like? How is it like in your own opinion?
Great. I think there has been some gains, and of course there has been some challenges as it relates to the civil society and our contribution to the development of Liberia. I think we've brought more openness to the discourse, to the development space. We've fought for that space, for communities to be heard. Today, in the forestry sector that we also work in, we now have communities benefiting from their natural resources. there is a community benefit sharing trust pool that have received more than $4 million from 30% of land rental fees. Today, communities are able to sit at the table and discuss their issues. Today, we have issues around the free, prior, and informed consent. We also have the collaborator with the media to have the access to information law passed. Okay, so we've had several policy dialogues, bringing stakeholders, who are politicians, and policy makers to communities to have a dialogue on moving forward. So Liberia has become more involved from the end of civil society. We've supported communities a lot. Today, communities are managing their own forests and the resources. They can get money directly from companies and from government to support initiatives in the communities. Today, communities are able to stand and say, we do not want this person, we want this other person. So we're not saying that we are claiming 100% that, but we've contributed significantly to that because we are the ones who are mostly with the people, and training them, building their capacity in advocacy and so forth. Today, communities can know exactly what their lawmakers are doing. Years back, you could see that place was like in a Liberian form, they would say, a Buguman place. So what's happening there, we do not know exactly what's happening. So, but now lawmakers can go back to their constituents to do a report. They can, before session starts, they will go to their districts and know exactly, carve the agenda. Most of them will carve the agenda and come. Now, what happens is, and the challenges is that at the legislature, when those agenda are carved, it becomes a different thing with the implementation of those agenda at the legislature. Most time it is either an executive-oriented decision or a personal, decision that lawmakers would take at that level. So, but at least Liberians are aware about what their lawmakers do today. Our legislative report on the overall. I think on the overall, if I should grade civil society work, I would say we've done 80%.
80%. Awareness is something very key. You already started talking about your own work relative to the legislative scorecard, making emphasis on lawmakers. And so I'd like us to move straightly there. From your research, the lawmakers in general, tell us, did they capture lawmakers going back to their people to inform them adequately about activities, about their own participation, about their own decision at plenary?
Of course, there are a few lawmakers who usually go back. Very few, okay. and they usually go back to their people to say, look, this is what I've done so far for this section, and I want to hear from you. What exactly do you want me to do?
I'm sorry, you have all the information. Could you name some of the lawmakers?
Yeah, so lawmaker like Avant Jews from Margibi County, he usually goes back to his constituent to say, look, this is what I've done, and in fact, he's invited on several occasions to that. Larry Yonkwe has done that from Nimba County. Lawmaker like Glikia have also done that from Nimba County. There are lawmakers, of course, Honorable Snow have done that, going back to the constituent every time to have a discussion. So there are few amongst the women. You have Rosalind Dennis who usually have these meetings with their people. So I may not be able to name all of them, but these are few that usually go back, and we are there in those meetings. We attend those meetings.
In Monserrato, so I'd like you to think about any of the lawmakers, if any.
Yeah, I'm in Monserrato, and I will basically think about the House of Representatives, because we have not seen the Senate. Senators have done that. Most of them are House of Representatives. So I spoke about Rostalin. She's from Monserrato. from Monserrado County, Cindy Bashel, okay, has been involved with that. Also, one person who have, I mean, on the flip side, who have really not been involved with going back to their counties, I mean, to the districts and discussing issues and to get a district will be Honorable Thomas Fala. On the average. So on the average, Thomas Fala is actually absent in his district. I think he's mostly focused in Lofa County. And so these are people who, you know, we've been attending their meetings. We have records of them going back, so we are able to speak, you know, to that. So, but the practice, all right, it is a legislative, you know, practice of going back to your constituent and discussing the issues and gathering what exactly the agenda is and coming for the next sitting, because these are people who employ you and you must be able to report to them. So it is important to do that. But most of our politicians, when they get elected, you know, they have a tendency that they become, you know, the bosses and do not refer to Liberians as their bosses and think they can do, you know, whatever. But the procedures are laid out and that you must be able to go back to your constituent and discuss the issues.
So there are three cardinal functions, sorry sir: lawmaking, oversight, and representation.
Yeah.
On the overall, from what you've captured over the period, which one of the three functions they've really been able to perform, and why you think so?
So in oversight, I will tell you that the legislature failed miserably in oversight. One, pointing out from our last year report that out of 120, you know, ministry and agencies, you know, only 6 made budget performance report. And as per the national budget, the PFM law, there should be quarterly budget performance report by these institutions. Now 120 only 6. Yes.
Wow.
So that is to tell you that the legislature is weak in oversight. As it relates to other reports, of course, there have been audit conducted by GAC. The legislature has not been able to, you know, make sure that the GAC, you know, implement those audit reports, because when there is an issue in an institution, the legislature can also mandate the GSC to conduct an audit, and then the results of those audit reports can be presented to the legislature, and they can now through their committees, you know, that have oversight to make sure that the audit reports, you know, the recommendations are implemented. With that, we've not seen that over the time. So that is for oversight. There has been this is a special case with almost for 4 years now we've been recording that when the legislature invites, you know, government officials to show cause for a particular issue, most time they do not attend. And a very particular case would be the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance have found all of the excuses that he could give to attending to the legislature call. In fact, this time around, that was last month, the legislature summoned him and he asked that he's going to operate on his time instead of the time that the legislature has up. So we've recorded that on several occasions. I mean, there has been issue with summoning him and finding him and so forth, but then it has gone under the bridge. That is to say, and that reflects that our legislature is actually they seem to be compromised. They're weak, you know. Usually in our words we will say they are two-fleet bulldogs. They do not have the teeth to bite. Of course, they have the responsibility, they have the power. They can, if we have a robust legislature, we will have a very effective government. because the legislature sits. For those who watch football, they are like the midfielders. They decide, they distribute. They are the ones who make the engine of the government, and they have supervisory power over the executive, and they can summon people from the judiciary. So they are the most powerful branch of government. People may think that the executive is the most powerful, but the executive reports to the legislature. The legislature can decide to impeach the president. The legislature can impeach a judge, but the president cannot impeach a lawmaker.
Why it is the legislature, according to you, now been fully functional, not really active, they are not robust, they are weak, two-flare bulldog. What do you think it is why it is, from your observation?
I think there are political reasons and individual reasons. If you look at the laws that have been passed by the legislature since last year, you will find out that 90% of the laws that have been passed by the legislature has come from the executive. And 10% of those from individuals outside and members of the legislature. If you see the conglomeration of political parties at the legislature, at the first side they had majority opposition lawmakers. Now you will see that majority of the lawmakers have crossed and they are in the ruling establishment. You will see most of the decisions that are made, are in favor of the executive. So you have a compromised legislature that say almost everything yes to the executive, and do not checkmate what they should be doing. And that's why you see we have a dysfunction country. You have an executive where there are issues, there are state enterprises and commissions that you enter today, you will see there's nothing happening. People are just sitting in the offices. There's no current 24/7. No, people do not monitor. People do not go on the field to implement activities. They just sit and collect salaries. Definitely because the legislature that should be reviewing budget performance reports and holding executives and people in the judiciary to account is not doing so.
So we have a very big problem. Now we have the time perhaps to have that solved with the decisions that the people will make October 10, 2023. This is the program Boss Talk on Boss and Television. Matthias Yene is our guest in studio, and we're discussing issues of national concern. We're taking this break. When we come back, we will start to delve into the people's own decision, their own part to play when it comes to this particular issue, right after this break.
Boss Talk, this is your most informative and educative show that brings you face to face with the experts and national leaders to discuss trending national issues, be it politics, education, health, agriculture, human interest, and a lot more. Join your host, Julius Compton, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the program Boss Talk, showing live on SATCOM Channel 4.
Many thanks for rejoining us. If it's just coming our way, this is Boss Talk on Boss and Television live on SATCOM Channel 4. And we have in studio as our guest the Executive Director of ARED, Matthias Yene. You spoke and cataloged some of the issues relative to the national legislature based upon statistics and research your institution has made over the period. Now, members of the national legislature, the representatives, the senators, they do not go there on their own. They have to be elected by the people, and the people have a decision to make. They have to microscope down the lawmakers ahead of the October polls. What do you think the people should be looking forward to in making decisions to strengthen the legislature comes 2024?
Great. So, ARED, the work we do is to inform the public about the performance of their lawmakers. I think the people should now start to do the average performance. In year one, this is what this is how a lawmaker perform. In year two, and average that and see whether this person is electable. If for any reason that this person doesn't meet the criteria, of being a lawmaker that seeks the interest of the people, of being a person that looks at the issues and not personal interests, then Liberians can make a decision. They can also judge from our last year report. There are lawmakers who sat at the legislature from January to December and did not say a word. In legislative debate, you must be able to speak. So if you representation and you are not debating, you are not representing the people. Okay? So that is something that they should look at. There are lawmakers who have not been able, to even write a communication to plenary raising the issues in their districts. These lawmakers, if I should be in all fairness, they shouldn't be re-elected. Liberians will have to take a very hard decision. Look, every time on most of my talks and discussions with people, I tell them Liberians are very good at making bad decisions.
Wow.
And it's because of the bad decisions we make. We had the more than 14-year civil war. After that, we elected people who were not in the interest of Liberia.
But they will say they are in the interest.
Of course, they will say. But Liberians,
how do people reconcile the both?
Because Liberians are not looking at the issues. They are looking at what they get, what they've given. So a person comes and divide T-shirts and gave the $20 and maybe a bag of rice and so forth. We tend to follow that person and feel that that person is doing good. Okay? And then we vote for that person. And when the person gets elected, the person now turns to benefit a lot and do not do the work that they were elected for. Most times we say, if you ask Liberians sometimes, why do you want to vote for this person? They say, I just love the man, or I just love the lady. And if love would have taken us, if love cannot build the roads in the southeast, love will not put drugs in the hospital. Liberians should vote for people who have the track record, who are telling you this is how I am going to do it.
And what if they don't do it the way they say they would do it, as we've seen over the period?
Then you have your constitutional right. That comes to, look, our constitution gives us several ways out. One, the person can be elected and the person can be booted out of power through an elections, and then the person will not return. Two, there is impeachment. Have we tried impeachment proceedings against lawmakers or presidents?
Because it's setting precedent.
When Liberians want that, don't you think it will happen?
Do you think the lawmakers will sit there and one of their colleagues is impeached because they will have to eventually make the decision?
If Liberians are resolved to do a particular thing, and if they want change, they must be able to stand up for change.
What's your honest opinion, sir, on the overall performance of current lawmakers? Do you think they should be re-elected, or should we, from the democratic process, bring on board new lawmakers to see what can happen for Liberia?
I would think it is
percentage-wise.
I would think majority of those who are at the legislature shouldn't be re-elected.
Why?
I just provided you some statistics. If you look at lawmakers who are at the legislature, on the overall, our report provides that the entire legislature fail in oversight.
Lawmaking.
In lawmaking, the entire legislature, with the laws that are there in committee rooms that even they themselves and citizens have been pointing out, did not pass those laws. They passed 90% of the laws they passed came from the executive.
Okay.
So you will see that the legislature is working for the executive as compared to working for the people who elected them. When it comes to representation, you will see that majority of the lawmakers, look, amongst some of the 3 lawmakers, only 6 lawmakers at the legislature, at the House of Representatives, were always present in section.
Namely, if you can recall.
Yeah, so Mirakawa is one. You have Akaras Gray is 2. I mean, I think it's also contributed to him being head on executive and making sure that things run on behalf of the president. So there are lawmakers like Larry Yonkwe, who attend that section regularly. So these lawmakers, on top of my head, are the ones who at the legislature always attend.
Should they be re-elected?
I think lawmakers who performed should be re-elected.
This is the program Boss Talk on Boss on Television. I think lawmakers who really perform should be re-elected, and we're discussing this plus other issues. I'd like to come back into you before going to our next component of our discussions. What's your readings of the elections, especially the NEC has rolled out series of activities from their end, and we are now gradually moving to one of the crucial points, that is campaign. What's your own readings, your observation about the conduct thus far of the NEC towards the elections?
Great. And let me say, I do believe that we will have a free, fair, and transparent elections. And we want that to happen. Of course, we may not have 100% control because we are not managing the elections. It's the NEC. But I think the NEC will learn from other countries. And I have been on trips to Nigeria during Nigerian elections, Sierra Leone and all of that. And I've seen the NEC chair there. And usually we have the discussion and say, look, are you learning from these things? Are you observing what's happening in the reaction of citizens? So she was like, yeah, I mean, I'm taking cue. So we need to be able to we trust the NEC in the conduct of the elections, and we think that there will be free, fair, and transparent elections. What we cannot guarantee is maybe if there may be some, of course, there is not elections that doesn't have some discrepancies. There may be some discrepancies around, but we hope that those cannot be a reason, for us to cancel election results. I also think that there are capacity issues with the NEC. Internally, it's an open secret that there is division within the commission. There are people who are on the side of the chair. There are people who are on the other side, and so forth. I hope that they can put aside those division and work together in the interest of Liberia. Additionally, I think the NEC doesn't have the capacity to monitor all of their regulations they put in place, and even including the laws, including that of the laws governing the elections, the electoral laws, and so forth. You will find out that there has been pre-campaigning in various quarters, whether it's the ruling party, it's the opposition. Everybody is out there. They may not be saying the word "vote for me," but if a politician puts his picture on the billboard and says "go and register," and and my tires in the 2023 go and register. That points that I'm indirectly telling you to go and vote for me. Okay, so those are things that they need to control.
Do you think that can be controlled? Like you stated, it has been all over the place.
It's all over the place because the NEC have not found that the laws are there. You must implement the law, investigate, and find the political parties.
All of them will be fine because there's a key word that they are hiding behind or defending. Vote for me.
So the NEC, the laws are there for the electoral law that says you do not pre-campaign. If there's something that looks like pre-campaigning, the NEC,
which you've seen,
which I've seen, the NEC can be able to call them and find them. All right, so those are things that should be done. The NEC also is, I think that they are unable to monitor campaign financing. How much is it that this political party is putting into the campaign? What are the sources of campaign? A month ago, I was in an elections coordinating meeting, and I asked the question: are we monitoring the fundraising that are being done out of the country in the U.S., in other places, and these people bring the money to Liberia? Do we know those who are funding? Usually they will say Liberians in the diaspora raise the fund. Now, but is it only Liberians who raise the fund?
Are you also capacitated enough to do that monitoring?
No, of course. But there is an institution called Integrity Watch that is doing some level of work around campaign financing. I think they will do some level in Liberia, but I'm not sure as to whether it's going to be done outside. So those are things. And our laws prohibit people who, so for example, a person registered and the new elections law say it should be 1 year. So if you are an appointee of government, you should resign 1 year prior to elections. And there are people who resign 3 months prior to elections, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months to elections. That is a gross violation of our elections law.
Someone should be reporting, and the next in other case too is almost like a court. People should have to report John Brown, Peter Paul before they pick it up.
So the NEC doesn't have to wait for cases.
Okay.
So the NEC during the registration period can do its due diligence, and that's the process. Because if this person registered and this person grossly violated our electoral law, the NEC must be able to pick that up from the registration center and know that this is what it is before they can qualify the person as a candidate.
Maybe because of that, they've released the preliminary, and some of the people that they interviewed, their names aren't there yet. You think they are working in that direction, the preliminary listing?
We hope that they are working in that direction. We hope so. So that it doesn't bring a lot of conflict, because the law is clear. We must be able to abide by the law, and I think that is one thing. I also think that there is and there where we need to have a very robust civic and voter education. Most Liberians, especially in the hinterland, understand in their minds that we are voting electronically, because they register through biometric. We need to be able to tell Liberians that yes, we did biometric registration, but we are not doing voting electronically.
So you have a part to play as civil society. Huge one for that.
Of course we do, but the NEC should be taking the lead role in making sure that is done. Up to now, the calendar for civic and voter education has not been released by the NEC. That is something that should be released. Up to now, the final voter roll, the final registration roll have not been released by NEC.
It has been released.
It has been released 2 million. All right. So if that is the final roll that has been released, now it should be distributed, that people see exactly whether there are people, because there has been cases, and I sat on one of the cases when I went to do monitoring in the southeast. We have Burkinabes, Senegalese, who registered stole vote in the elections in Grand Julia County, about 7 of them, as to whether, in fact, they were called for investigation. Liberians saw them and reported a case, and then they did not come, as to whether NEC, have informed the public about that case and say these people are not going to be included in our final rule. This is something that needs to be done, because look, Liberians take the elections very serious. This is a matter of progress, or we retrogress. So we must be able to make the decisions as Liberians, not aliens, making decisions for us. And this is something that needs to be looked at. So NEC, of course, usually when you ask NEC, they say, oh, the finances are coming, in the media. But when you have these meetings and they tell you, look, it's a different story. We think NEC needs to come out clear, to say exactly what is it about elections financing, to make sure and put pressure on government to provide the funds, because the elections, especially going towards October 10, it is a process, it's a rolling process. So when one is ending, another is coming. So you must prepare for the one that is coming, ahead. So if the funds are given at a later date, then it becomes a problem for NEC.
Do you see a violent or a violent-free elections? Looking at the corridors for now, briefly.
Actually, I think there may be some in some quarters. Judging from the voter registration process, there were violence around in District 10, in other places, and so forth. So we see that there may be, others, and we actually anticipate not a huge one. We anticipate that in some quarters there may be violence. And that's why we need to work now to make sure that we tell Liberians that we need a violent-free elections. Because I always say the first person that will leave Liberia when there's electoral violence will be the politicians. It is us who are neighbors, who live in the same vicinity, who work in the same area, that will remain here and undergo the heat. So Liberians will need to understand that Liberia is for everyone. It is not for a particular politician, and we need to be civil in our engagements.
We need to be civil in our engagements, and so that we can make our country better. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we'll discuss the recent petition to members of the National Legislature from schools of civil society groups headed by ARET.
Boss Talk, this is your most informative and educative show that brings you face to face with the experts and national leaders to discuss trending national issues, be it politics, education, health, agriculture, human interest, and a lot more. Join your host, Julius Compton, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the program Boss Talk, showing live on SATCOM Channel 4. Boss Talk, this is your most informative and educative show that brings you face to face with the experts and national leaders to discuss trending national issues, be it politics, education, health, agriculture, human interest, and a lot more. Join your host, Julius Compton, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the program Boss Talk, showing live on SATCOM Channel 4.
It's good that you rejoin us on the program Boss Talk on Boss Television. If you're just coming our way, this is the program where we afford decision makers, the experts, to discuss key trending issues of national concern, discussing the issues and trying as much as possible to avoid the personalities in order to make our country better. And our guest in studio is Matthias Union, Executive Director of the Institute of Research and Democratic Development, ARET for short. Recently, the petitioned members of the National Legislature for, among other things, an act to memorialize Liberia's civil conflict by establishing a war memorial museum. So, Mr. Yin, I'd like to say welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Thank you,
So, tell us
Julius.
the background behind this particular act before going further.
So, first of all, you will know that we experience a very brutal civil crisis. People will say it started December 24th, 1989. And the root causes of those are, people say, because of social economic issues, nepotism, and they will name a lot of things. Liberians were killed in their mass, and there are victims of the war that are currently living with wounds, bullet wounds. There are people who died and they were buried in mass graves. There were massacres all around in the Lutheran Church, in other places that you may know. People know about it, also the Double massacre. So there are people who lay their lives down, whether it was voluntary or it was forcibly. There are people who lost their lives during the war. To that, we had the Accra Peace Accord, and the Accra Peace Accord brought about peace and reconciliation, and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was established. That commission established was to make sure that the accused and victims, kind of come and tell their story, and they are able to, whether it is the accused, being remorseful to ask for forgiveness, and then it's recorded. So through the Liberia Peace and TRC report, the final report recommended that we memorialize, the Civil War. Especially, we're looking at the victims of the Civil War. On July 29 up to the 30, there will be even a memorial service at the Lutheran Church to observe the anniversary of the Lutheran massacre. Okay, so these and many other, we thought that, look, we need to see how Liberians are fighting on the level of the court, of the War and Economic Crimes Court, of course.
Are you in support of that?
100%, in fact, 1,000,000% in support, and I even signed recently with the issues led by my colleague Adama Denster, and a petition, to the U.S. Congress for civil society and organizations in support of the War Economics Crimes Code. So 100% support the War Economics Crimes Code. So we thought that, look, part of the recommendations is to memorialize our Civil War, so that it bring a kind of cohesiveness, and unity amongst Liberians. It also show that we respect those who lost their lives. And not just that, but it gives a kind of a reminder, to generation now and generation to come, that war is not the option, that these are things, that happened during the war, and so they can be reminded that, look, we can still dialogue, we can engage, and we can use all the constitutional means, but war is not an option. So we led the advocacy along with the civil society human rights platform, including the Liberia Massacre Association. We led the discussion around what we call the Memorial Act, the War Memorial Act. We've had several discussions with institutions, including the National Human Rights Commission, UN agencies around civil society organizations, and Liberians themselves and victims of the war. We say, look, let's see how we can push this process. And through the support of the African Transitional Justice Fund, we've been able to draft a law called the Memorial Act, and to memorialize victims of the war, and then build a museum that people can go to and see that this is what Liberia has passed through over the time. And it can also bring a level of closure to victims, because they feel respected. They feel that, oh yeah, this is something that we've been recognized by government. Of course, government has identified mass graves around the places and so forth, and and build. I think it's not enough. I think government needs to take this initiative. When it's legislated, it becomes a mandate that government needs to lead. Civil society organizations, and others have been trying to see how we support the process. But then when government is leading this, with the support and coming with support from national budget to establish this museum and this memorial, build memorial in places, that people can see and be reminded. Look, usually people will say, don't you think that when people are reminded, it brings that kind of sorrow and so forth? Of course, you cannot run away from your past. We must be reminded about our past so that our future, becomes better. So, and that's the background behind the development and the petition that we did on Thursday at the National Legislature for the enactment of the War Memorial Act.
How was the response like? I saw Representative C.B. Bashir receiving the petition.
Yeah, the response was great. He have said he's going to support that and give that to the chair on petition and claims Honorable Gongu Kagon. So we've met Honorable Kagon before. It's just that he wasn't present during the presentation, but he knows about the act. We've also had a discussion with Honorable Russell Nkwakoko Dennis, who is also a member, of the committee, and also one of the lead campaigners for the establishment of War and Economics Crimes Court. So she also gave her support, for the passage of that, and we hope that can be placed on the agenda of the legislature when they return from that July 26th break, and see how they can support that. I think it will be a victory for Liberia when that is passed, because people feel that there's nothing being done about the war, about the TRC report, and donors in Liberia put a lot of money and resources and time into that, and we think that it shouldn't go waste. So we think that we are optimistic that it's going to happen, it's going to be passed, because it is more of
now the manner and the form in which people they are really focusing on the elections. You think it should be done now, it can be done now, or you think next year also?
If I was a politician,
use it to score political
I will
marks.
use it to score political marks.
The program Boss Talk, as we wrap up because of time, I could be your parting comments, sir.
Thank you. So let me first say thank you to Boss TV and the management here and you for the level of work you've done so far, and thank you for the invite. Let me say to Liberians that we have a very critical elections, and these elections calls for our total involvement, but we should stay out of violence. Let's have a peaceful elections. Go during campaign time, campaign for your candidate you like, and let's go and vote peaceably and make sure that Liberia becomes a peaceful country even during and after the elections. Vote for your candidate and decide the future. However, I will want you to think twice when you are voting, because this will carry us for the next 6 years. It either carry us backwards or forward as a country. Thank you all so much, Julius.
Thank you so much. It was nice having you on a fresh Working Monday, the Executive Director of the Institute of Research and Democratic Development, ARED for short, Matthias. He has been our guest on the program Boss Talk on this Monday morning edition. Many thanks for watching. Join us on Wednesday, special edition of July 26th, celebrations of Liberia's 176th independence anniversary. Many thanks to Leon Citas, who produced, as always, this edition of the program. Until Wednesday, I'm Julius Compton. Bye bye for now.
Boss Talk, this is your most informative and educative show that brings you face to face with the experts and national leaders to discuss trending national issues, be it politics, education, health, agriculture, human interest, and a lot more. Join your host, Julius Compton, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the program Boss Talk, showing live on Satcom Channel 4.
Hello, guys. Welcome to the program, The Healthy Way, the show that talks about your well-being. I am your host, Shiba Ish Bade. I'm so excited to bring you the latest and most important news on national and international health issues. This program is dedicated to providing you with critical information you need to lead a healthier lifestyle. We also offer valuable tips on how to stay in shape and maintain a healthy lifestyle. We offer valuable tips on how to stay in shape and maintain a good health care. We also showcase success stories of those who have overcome health challenges. Join us every week as we explore the world of health and wellness on the Boss TV Satcom Channel 4. It's time to start your journey the healthy way.
elections in October says Liberia is on a path to renew peace and democracy. Mosorado County District 6 lawmaker Samuel Enders wants law enforcers power to fully implement the amended drug law. Fly president encouraged the government to practically implement the decent work law to ensure that no worker should take home below the minimum wage. Good evening and welcome to Boss TV News. My name is Martina J. Rogers with the weekend presentation. The news in detail. Liberian leader George Weah has recommitted his pledge that his government will conduct free, fair, and credible elections that will satisfy international standards. Speaking at the Golden Image Award, President Weah said, "It is time that Liberia demonstrate to the world that the nation has truly thrived and is headed on the right direction."
Request to show the world yet again about our commitment to advance our democratic credentials by holding free, fair, transparent, and democratic elections that will satisfy international standards. This will demonstrate to the world that Liberia has truly turned the page on its recent history and is now on the path of enduring peace and lasting democracy. Just 6 days from today, we will be commemorating the 176 years of the anniversary of independence of our beloved country. We'll be doing so with renewed vigor and hope, based on the premise that our country is headed in the right direction. As we holding together as a united people, bring solutions to address the many challenges that have faced us as a result of the devastation and destruction that were caused by our prolonged civil war. It is therefore always pleasing to be here as the convener of the prestigious Golden Image Award. It is therefore with deep humility that I join you, distinguished personality, to be recognized and awarded this year's special honor. Madame Julie Andy, merci beaucoup. Grazie media et arigato.
President Weah also used the occasion to call on all Liberians to totally discourage all forms of violence during this election period and focus on promoting peace for the common good of the country.
In world affairs, as all eyes and ears turn to us as we head to the polls to hold legislative and presidential elections. The theme of this year's award, giving hope to our people through peace, non-violence, and credible elections, could not have been a clearing call. Signify a strong commission to demonstrate to the world our collective resolve to keeping our democratic credentials on track. No matter how deep our political differences, we will go to the polls avoiding any form of violence in order to choose our leader in an atmosphere of peace. Let me again, Ambassador Julie Andy and the Crusader for Peace, Ben, and extend my profound thanks and appreciation to all businesses, organizations, and institutions that sponsor or contributed to the success of this year's award. God bless you today. Wonderful evening.
The president of the Federation of Liberian Youth, Bernica Elliott, has challenged the national government to try and resolve the minimum wage issue. According to her, more workers are making below the minimum wage, something she noted is unfair. The fly president wants employees to get their just benefits and stay protected by the law.
Section 16.1 of the Decent Work Act, which explains that every Liberian working in both private and public institutions is entitled to a minimum wage of 0.68 per hour and 5.50 per day. We want to use this medium to highlight that more than 15,000 government workers still make below the minimum wage of US $150 as mandated by the Decent Work Act. Most of them being youth. We call on our beloved president and hold him by his words that this will be resolved, that our brothers and sisters will have their just benefits and stay protected by the law, that Auntie Mary Brown, a resident of West Point, will go home smiling each day. At the same time,
Madam Elliott said it is time to punish what is punishable and promote what is promotional. Making reference to the Johnsonville cow saga, she stressed that Fly frowns heavily on the said act by few group of people, noting that gone are the days where criminality will be promoted by the Liberian society. She wants the country to strive for excellence and work towards building a healthy future for the people.
Section 16.1 of the Decent Work Act, which explains that every Liberian working in both private and public institutions is entitled to a minimum wage of 0.68 per hour and 5.50 per day. Our culture calls for us not to take what is not ours and to return to the rightful owner. These practices, if not handled, has the propensity to grow into a common practice, fearless to penetrate all sectors and both at the national level. As the youth of Liberia and as the president of the Federation of Liberian Youth, the Federation of Liberian Youth graciously frown against this. We must punish that which is punishable, promote that which is promotional, and continue to compete and strive for excellence as a nation. It is now time to build for the future and turn our minds and hearts of only wanting to make political gains. I challenge that we will not cease our motivation to make Liberia a great place, where young people will not have to waste their lives seeking greener pastures.
Colorado County District 6 Representative Samuel Enders has stressed the need for law enforcers to be fully empowered for them to robustly implement the amended and passed drug law. He at the same time encouraged law enforcement officers to be involved and very active in arresting those who violate the law. At the same time, Representative Enders urged the public and communities to work along with law enforcement officers to practically address the worrisome issue.
To be able to enforce that. The enforcement means empowering our police officer in the Liberia district. Because the first line of defense before the DEA will be the police. Those police should be able to have the ability to be present at the place when they are called. If a police is called and he has nothing to get there, and I think it becomes a problem. It's very important that they be present, and to do so, we must be able to empower the police. The DEA will be able to get ready, be strong, be active, be present. And I think we need to also have logistics for the DEA. In the absence of that, there will be a problem. I think communities need to also get involved. We need to have community presence who will settle and be able to work with the police, with the DEA. You see something, you say something. I think these are some of the things that can be put in place. These are practical steps that will be important to make sure these laws that have been brought on board is enforced.
Going to election shortly, what are your major priorities in your own district?
I think election is a process, it's not an event. My priority now is to continue to do what I was doing, is to remain consistent, and so I think I'm fine. I continue to do my work, continue to go to the rural places, but be consistent in what you do. So my priority has been the district, my priority is the district, my priority remains the district. And the African Dream Academy.
Well, viewers, if you are just joining us, you are watching Boss TV News, half-hour news presentation about major happenings in Liberia and elsewhere. Today is Friday, July 21st, 2023, and I am Martina J. Rogers presenting. One of our top stories we are following, Fly President Bernica Elliott wants government address the minimum wage issue, and still ahead of us is our business and sport news. Please be there as we take this break to be right back.